What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got a sweet standard list for you guys. Here we're taking a look at a Lutri list. Of course, Lutri the Spellchaser is a companion. Here, one and then blue or red for a 3/2 elemental otter. And flash. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. That's if you use Lutri as your companion. And when Lutri enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant sorcery spell you control, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So we've seen some different variations of Lutri. Of course, Lutri as a companion doesn't see as much play as a lot of the other companions, but I think Lutri is kind of a companion done right because it kind of allows you to almost play like Brawl in Standard, which is pretty sweet actually. So we've seen like some Izzet list is kind of the most common because of the blue and red in the mana cost. What I kind of played around with and actually have found surprisingly well is a Sultai kind of Undergrowth list, and so that's what we're looking at here today. So Undergrowth is a mechanic from the Ravnica block where it wants to put creatures in your graveyard, and then you later on you will get benefits from doing so. So let's kind of go over the list here. So we are Singleton, of course. So Necrotic Wound here. Instant speed for 1 black mana. Target creature gets -X on the end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And if that creature would die, exile it instead. So 1 mana, instant speed, being able to exile a creature, and scalable removal. So this is, of course, the first Undergrowth card. So you can kind of understand what exactly I'm talking about here, in case you're not familiar. We also have Wall of Lost Thoughts, which you've probably seen before in like mill decks, even like some self-mill decks. 0/4 Defender, when it enters, target player puts the top 4 cards of the library into our graveyard. Of course, we're always going to choose ourselves because we want to mill ourselves and fill up our own graveyard with creatures so we get these sweet Undergrowth payoffs. Another way to do that is Corpse Churn. Instant speed for 2 mana, we get to put the top 3 cards of our library into our graveyard, and then we get to bring a creature card back from our graveyard to our hand. So we are trying to put, cards, especially creatures, in our graveyard, but there are certain key creatures that we maybe will want to bring back that we didn't necessarily want to mill that might be effective. Maybe you want to replay them, and Corpse Churn is kind of a way to allow us to do that while filling up our graveyard at the same time. Heart of the Sack, just a nice removal here. Obviously, cheap interactive spells work extremely well with Lutri. That's why Izzet is probably the most common version you'll probably see of this. But yeah, obviously there's lots of good spells in Sultai colors, like Heartless Act, Necrotic Wound, things like that work really well with Lutri as well. So just being able to flash in and kill 2 things while putting a 3/2 body on the board is pretty sweet. And here's another fantastic payoff here for Lutri is Mausoleum Secrets. It's a card that was pretty decent amount of hype, I think, when it was first spoiled, but has seen like virtually no play. It's a 2 mana instant speed. You get to search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your library. So 2 mana instant speed tutor for kind of any card in your deck is pretty amazing. Of course, you do need creature cards to make this work. So it's can be a little slow and clunky, but since we are all in on this kind of self-mill, filling up our graveyard with creatures, Mausoleum Secrets is going to be fantastic. And of course, if you just flash this in with Lutri, you're going to need to search for 2 different cards. So that's pretty fantastic value. Mire Triton, another great way to fill up our graveyard while giving us some life back and having a Death Touch creature on board. Order of Midnight, kind of another way for us to get some creatures back that we didn't necessarily want to mill or we want to still get value out of. We can bring a creature back from our graveyard to our hand and then just play it back as a 2/2 flyer that cannot block. Kraul Harpooner, another great creature with the Undergrowth. Also can allow us to kind of grow aggro a little bit as a 3/2 creature on turn 2. And if we need to, we can pick off flyers on our opponent's side. Binding of Titans is another way to kind of fill up our graveyard. Also does allow us to get a creature or a land back with the 3rd saga. And also lets us exile cards from our opponent's graveyard, which really works well in this format. Getting rid of key creatures like Kroxa and Uro, things like that. Tyrant Score is another fantastic cheap spell. Assassin's Trophy, same thing. Fiend Artisan also works really well with our self-mill plan because it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in our graveyard. And we can also sack another creature to search for a creature card with mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. So that's kind of the main idea of the deck, was just seem like Fiend Artisan just seemed like a nice kind of toolboxy card where you can sacrifice something. Like a Mire Triton that's already milled you and made your Fiend Artisan bigger, and then you can sacrifice that to the Fiend Artisan and then get something more valuable out of your library with just kind of a toolbox strategy. And Lutri is kind of the same way. Of course, Fiend Artisan wants creatures and Lutri wants spells, so there's a little bit of tension but not really, because you can only flash in Lutri once, right? So just having Lutri to, unless of course you could play Lutri in your main deck as well, but we're just running it here as our companion, not in the main. So yeah, just kind of being able to have Lutri flash in to double up a removal spell to kill 2 things at once while adding a body to the board. And then Fiend Artisan lets us sacrifice the creature. So, you know, if we've got our value off Lutri and now the 3/2 body isn't relevant, we can always sacrifice that and then just get something more relevant. We do have some nice payoffs, of course, in Undergrowth, which we'll get to here. Glowspore Shaman is another fantastic way to fill up our graveyard for the top 3 cards. And also, I'll just get a land back. You know, we're in a 3-card deck, so we do need some fixing and some ramp, so to speak. And just having a 3/1 body is pretty sweet as well. Same thing here with Skull Prophet. It's a 3/1. Similar to the Glowspore Shaman. However, we have to tap it to put the cards into our graveyard. However, it is repeatable, though, of course. So every time we tap it. And then we also tap it for black or green. And since we are mostly black and green, and blue is just kind of the splash for Lutri and some of our, just a handful of other spells. Which is the nice thing about Lutri is because, you know, it is the kind of the double blue. We have plenty of other spells we are trying to cast that are black and green, so there's very little tension. So it's easy to have the right mana you need to flash in Lutri and still cast what you need. So Embodiment of Agonies is another great payoff for having a bunch of cards in your graveyard. And this one doesn't care about creatures or anything like that. It's a 0/0 flying death touch for 3 mana, and enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each different mana cost among non-land cards in your graveyard. This doesn't care about creatures, it just wants any non-land spells. And since we are basically a Singleton deck here with Lutri as our companion, we have pretty much all of our spells are different mana cost. And I mean, there's some redundancy here with, like, obviously these are 1 in black, 1 in black. Things like that, but you know, we have such a variety of cards that you're gonna get this down for, you know, it's a 4/4 5/5 pretty easily, and Flying Death Touch is quite a beater if your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it. And we also have Funeral Rites here. It's a little bit of filler, but it does give us card draw while also milling cards into our graveyard as well. Gorging Vulture, another way for us to put 4 cards into our graveyard, and also we get life for each creature card put into our graveyard this way, while adding a flying creature to the board as well. Murderous Rider, of course, is a must. Nixilis Cruelty is also a pretty fantastic removal spell. This seems pretty underrated. You know, it's very splashable, as there's only 2 and 1 black. Instant speed for -5/-5, and then that creature would get exiled. There's plenty of targets in the standard right now that this hits plenty of relevant targets. And, you know, if you have 6 mana open for Lutri, you can take out 2 things with this. That's pretty back-breaking for your opponent. Excavation Mole is a 3/3 with Trample that puts top 3 cards of our library into our graveyard. That's pretty decent. Loaming Shaman is a 3/2. When enters, target player shuffles any number of cards from their graveyard into their library. So we mostly want creature cards in our graveyard. Loaming Shaman allows us to get back any spells that we've, any non-creature spells that we've milled that we want back. You know, so all of our removal spells and things like that, we can shuffle those back into our library and have a chance to redraw them later on. We also have a Bond of Insight. There's another way to kind of get our instants and sorceries back. Each player puts the top 4 cards of the library into their graveyard, and then we get to return 2 instants and or sorcery cards from our graveyard to your hand. So that's another way to get some removal back. Either something that we've cast or something that we've milled that we need to kill something on our opponent's side. E2 Extinction is a fantastic removal spell, and it's very splashable here, just the 1 black and 3. Instant speed to exile a creature or planeswalker. And also we get to look at the top card of the library and put that into our graveyard. So another way for us to kind of fuel the Undergrowth strategy. Venomous Hierophant, same thing, 3/3 Death Touch. That's a pretty great blocker. And we get to put the top 3 cards of our library into our graveyard. And there's another Undergrowth payoff here. It's 4 mana haste. 0/0, however, enters with +1/+1 counter for each creature card in your graveyard. So again, this can be like a 7/7 out of nowhere. So if your opponent's just kind of attacking into you, they've killed your creatures, they think they're doing well, and then you've kind of whittled their life total, maybe with like a flyer or something like that. But they attack into you and they get your life total down, then out of nowhere you can just drop this down and just swing at them for like 7 or 8 out of nowhere and potentially win the game that way. So this is pretty fantastic. Mythos of Bracos. Here's kind of a sweet new card here from Ikoria. It's Sultai colors for a sorcery at 4 mana. We get to search our library for a card. It goes into our graveyard. However, we get 2 permanents from our graveyard back to our hand. So we do get to search for any card. However, we only get to return 2 permanents from our graveyard to our hand. So you're going to want to search for a permanent, of course, put it into your graveyard, and then you can get that, plus anything else you need back to your hand. It's another way for us to kind of get value back out of our removal spells and things like that. Or sorry, not removal spells, but our creatures. We also have Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. It's another way to kind of fill up our graveyard. It's a 3/2 menace. We give our opponent the opportunity to look at the top 3 cards of our library, and they put them into 2 piles, one face up, face down, and we get to choose one of those piles, and the other pile goes to our graveyard. So usually this is a pretty sweet deal either way for us, because we don't mind putting creatures in our graveyard or any other type of spells necessarily. So we can just kind of pick whatever pile we want, and it doesn't really matter, because either way we're kind of coming out ahead, because we want stuff in our graveyard anyway. Acolyte of Affliction is a 2/3 for 4 mana. When enters, the top 2 cards of our library go into our graveyard, and then we get to return a permanent card from our graveyard to our hand. This works fantastic, obviously, with things like Murderous Rider, if we've milled that or something like that, and any other creatures or permanents that we need back. Also running a Cavalier of Night. It's 4/5 lifelink. When it comes down, we get to kill another creature if we have something to sacrifice. And then when it dies, we get to return a creature with mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard straight to the battlefield. So Cavalier is fantastic. Same thing here with the Cavalier of Thorns, 5/6 reach. We get to look at the top 5 cards. We get a land out of that, and the rest go into our graveyard. It's another way to fill up our graveyard with spells. And of course, if it dies, we get to put one of our cards from any card from our graveyard back on top of our library. And Underrealm Lich, another way to kind of fill up our graveyard. Just a really fun little card here, 4/3 for 5. If you would draw a card and say, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And then we can pay 4 life to give it Indestructible until end of turn and tap it. So it's a great way to kind of protect ourselves from bigger creatures. We can just block with Underrealm Lich, pay the 4 life, give it Indestructible, tap it down, we don't really care. And allows us to kind of fantastic card selection and also fill up our graveyard at the same time. And since we are doing so much self-mill, it actually does protect us from milling out, because this is a replacement effect, so we don't ever lose to the game to mill, because we're instead looking at the top 3 cards of our library and then put 1 of them into our hand and the rest into our graveyard. So it is actually counts as a replacement effect for mill, so we're not going to mill out. So even if you are running on empty on your library, the Underrealm Lich goes on the stack, nothing really happens, but you still don't lose to mill. That's what I'm trying to say. So Lochmere Serpent is also fantastic here. 7/7 flash in for 6 mana. And if you mill this, you can just use the ability here for black and blue to exile 5 cards from an opponent's graveyard to return the Serpent from our graveyard back to our hand. And also have Izoni is a fantastic Undergrowth payoff here. It's a 6 mana 2/3. However, when it enters the battlefield, we get a 1/1 insect token for each creature card in our graveyard. And then a little bit of card advantage stapled onto it as well for black and green. We get to sacrifice another creature to gain a life and draw a card. A Lotleth Giant is another way to kind of help us close out games. 6/5 for 7 mana is pretty steep. However, when it enters, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. Of course, we're going to have a bunch of creatures in our graveyard, so this can oftentimes just close out the game. And then even if it's not quite there, just having a 6/5 creature on board is pretty fantastic as well. Motorhole, kind of the same thing. It's a 6/6. The natural casting cost is pretty steep here at 9 mana. However, it costs 1 less for each creature card in our graveyard. And when it enters, we get to return a land card from our graveyard to the battlefield. So with all that self-mill, we're going to have lands and spells and creatures in our graveyard. So oftentimes Motorhole, you'll just be paying 4, maybe 5 mana for it, get a 6/6, and then you get one of the lands back on the battlefield. So a little bit of ramp, so kind of similar to the Cavalier in a way. And then finally here we have Finale of Eternity. X black sorcery, destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. And if X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. So we can be pretty grindy and late game. You're probably not going to survive. The game's probably not going to go long to get to the 12 mana where X is 10. But it's possible in certain situations that just drag on for some reason. Most times it's going to be a way for you to kill 2 or 3 things. And it's a great target because it has X in the casting cost, so you can easily tutor this up with the the Mausoleum Secrets. So it's a great tutor spell to kill 2-3 creatures on your opponent's side. So going over the mana base here, we got a couple islands. Castle Locthwain, 3 swamp, 2 forest, all the shocklands of course, Watery Grave, Overgrown Tomb, Breeding Pool, and just 2 of Triome, and then 2 Fabled Passage. All right, going to the sideboard here, we do have the Grafdigger's Cage, is kind of a must in the current standard. Ether Gust is also fantastic. Disdainful Stroke gives us some protection from bigger spells, planeswalkers, sweepers, anything like that. Negates, Agonizing Remorse, Easy Prey, Noxious Grasp, and then some Artifact and Enchantment Hate and Return to Nature, and Wilt. Giant Lock is a nice spell since we are kind of a grindy, expect the game to go long. So this can come in and then either acts as a counter spell or a removal spell. So just having that flexibility is fantastic here in the Singleton style. Mystical Dispute is obviously fantastic. Murder, another great target to copy with Lutri. Ashiok can come in when we need to exile our opponent's graveyard against cycling and things like that. And then Unmoored Ego, there's a lot of linear strategies in Standard right now that are effective because they're so streamlined, and but they're also very easy to interact with. So Unmoored Ego, you can take out their Zenith Flare, their Agent of Treachery, things like that, and you really shut those decks down pretty hard. And obviously, if you get to a weird spot where you can flash in a Lutri on Unmoored Ego, that can be pretty fun as well, but most of the time you probably just want to cast it on 3. But yeah, there's lots of fun things you can do with this. Definitely enjoy the Undergrowth strategy in general, and just decided to give it a try with Lutri and a Sultai shell, and found it's one of the funner decks I've played this season. So up against Kino Max. Well, it's pretty land heavy, but we do have the removal spell. That's right. Our opponent, the Master Deck Builder here, with 73 cards. Okay. So we get the Overgrown Tomb, I guess. Swamp into Shaman. I don't need a land, but we'll see. Dawn of Hope. It's like a Castle Locthwain or something, might want it back. Breeding Pool, I don't think we need that. We already have 1 in hand, plus 2 more lands, so we're fine. Anything, we need more black sources. We do have 2 black in play, which is fine. So you have Terra and Nika here, which is pretty fantastic for them. Let's go and attack him. They're not going to block. They are going to block. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that one at all, but okay, we'll just hold up in the Omnix Cruelty here. I don't know if they realize that we actually want our graveyard full. So they're an Abzan, Terranika, and Dawn of Hope. So they're just trying to make tokens and then use Terranika to... Okay. What do we want to do here? Let's just draw some cards, fill up our graveyard. Not too about this token yet. This Dawn of Hope is pretty obnoxious though. We're going to have a hard time dealing with that. We have lots of spot removal, but not really ways of dealing with stuff like that. We have Assassin's Trophy and things like that here in the main, which is why they're there to deal with stuff like this. And of course we do have some artifact enchantment hate in our sideboard. But our opponent's deciding to take their sweet time here. Couple creatures. We do have turn 4 Atris, or we could just Underrealm Lich. Dawning Angel. You do want to get that Dawn of Hope off the board. That's going to give him so much value. So we have a good number of creatures in our graveyard. Izoni might be nice to get back at some point. We have Motor Hulk now as well. We have any lands. We have just that Breeding Pool from earlier. Okay, Soren in your Abzan life game list, sure.
This is but a taste of my power.
Okay, so they give their flyer lifelink. Pass the blockers, block the token, they're going to gain some life, probably draw a card. Yeah, this Dawn of Hope is going to give him a bunch of value, so that's pretty unfortunate. Raiders is pretty decent here. Alright, so we can flash. Swing both at Soren, just to get that off the board. It's pretty medium. But, yeah, let's get the Soren off the board. Keep that value off the table. We still have Necrotic Wound here to deal with their flyer. Whisper Squad. Okay, this deck is kind of all over the place. A ton of value. It's going to be a little tricky for us to deal with. Making all these 1/1s that can kind of block us pretty effectively. Yeah, let's get that Dawn of Hope off the board. Do you want to kill anything else? Not really. We can play this, get a breeding pool back, pay life. I guess that's fine. Oh, we do have a swamp as well. Yeah, let's just do that. Or no, we needed a green source. Oops. Alright, yeah, let's attack. Is there anything we want back here? Do you want Nazoni back? A little light on creatures so far, so I think we just play the Midnight down as a flyer. And we always have the 6/6 to keep them at bay. But we can swing through their tokens in the air now. So they make a token, they can make one more. Yeah, Dawn of Hope value is pretty obnoxious. I guess the Murderous Rider is the best card here. Alright. So let's attack all. So I'm gonna block, gain some life. Okay, Whisper Squad. Let's have one of those. 3 for 2 in here, they gain 2. They're tapped out. Yeah, let's Atris here. See what they do. And I think we trophy this before they can untap with it. 2 lands. I think we're fine on lands. Another land. Okay. Let's play you, and then we'll just trophy that now. Get that value train off the board. Maybe to search for land. That's fine. It's kind of crazy they're running a 3-color deck in all basics. But I mean, Dawn of Hope is a lot of value. Whisper Squad, of course, puts in work in certain decks. Okay, they get a creature back. Terranica, yeah, it's a good one. Three colors, all basics, and you're running like these intense mana cost spells. And you're running somewhat like a 70 card deck. Just don't understand how these decks can still function. Cavalier's pretty fantastic. So do we need to close out the game here before we get where are we at? We have 3 mana open still. Okay, so we have Menace, we have Flying. Let's attack all, see what they do. Let's exile that. Rather than paying 4 life for the Lich. Get their board clear. They could have a Shatter though. I mean, their deck's all over the place. Who knows what they're running? Let's just grab the Tomb. So mostly black-green anyway. I don't think we need the Fabled Passage. Opponents run out of resources. Ooze. Okay. Pretty obnoxious, but we have the removal spell for that. We'll grab the Locthwain. Doesn't really matter too much at this point. We can Murderous Rider on the Ooze. Flash in Lutri. We're going to take 4. A little bit of a downside, but kill both their things. Have a million good games, sure. Oh, okay, they're spamming it, so they're salty for losing with their 70 card pile of jank. I mean, they put up a pretty good fight for having 3 colors, all basic lands. Against Raphael. Luris. Oh, I'll give it a try. 65 cards. Lead on the Triumph, of course. Probably go Skull Prophet. Okay, so this is a Footlight Fiend, so probably just a sacrifice build. Go Force, I guess. Skull Prophet. And obviously we're not going to block the Fiend. I'll just go Gorging Vulture. Let's hang out with the Fiend Artisan so we can maybe get some value off it later on. So those effects will be pretty sweet here. Good Atris here as well, that's pretty decent. See, we are missing green for, well no, we have the Skull Prophet, so we can Cavalier next turn. Yeah, let's do that. So let's see what we get. Hoping for, just looking for removal here. We have all the mana we need, unless they have a way to deal with the Skull Prophet. I mean, I'm sure they do. Okay, they don't understand how this works. Cool. We get 3 cards out of it. So we don't have much value out of these 2 spells yet, but we're going to about to with the Cavalier, and we can also drop the Gorging Vulture anytime. We don't care about the 1 damage from the Footlight Fiend. We can attack in with Atris. They can block. They have to block with both. So let's do that. We want creatures in our graveyard, so if they do, that's fine. We'll get both creatures off the board and get something in our graveyard to start fueling these Undergrowth cards. I'm not sure they know how Menace works though. Perfect. You got the Cruel Celebrant, so you're going to probably be gaining a bunch of life here. And the Luris has lifelink. So doesn't seem great value if you'd worry about 3 damage. Just ramp into Cavalier. Okay. Watery Grave, that's fine. So now we got some stuff in our graveyard. So also this Necrotic Wound is looking pretty fantastic. And hope we get some synergy off the Lutri. So we'll probably target the Celebrant and tap out and do nothing. Sweet. So let's target you. Flashing you. And copy it, targeting you. Sweet. Okay, we still have some options here. Okay, our opponent just gives up. They lose their Luris. Alright, so we definitely want Ashiok. Easy Prey works well as well. And Grafdiggers. Okay, what do we want to take out? Corpse Churn is pretty expendable. Funeral Rites is one of those kind of filler type cards. shave some of our top end, but I think we can grind them out pretty well. So yeah, just get rid of some of the kind of filler type stuff. What do we got? What do we want to do? So Ashiok, Grafdiggers, which even though we're an Undergrowth deck, Grafdigger's Cage actually does not doesn't really affect us, so we're in good shape. And then Easy Prey hits pretty much everything in their deck. So yeah. The only thing Grafdigger's Cage does is shuts down the Cavalier dying, and you get any creature back to the battlefield. That's the only thing. That's the only way it really affects us. So yeah, we're happy to run that out against the Lurrus list. We're missing blue, but everything in our hand is playable. We have the card draw here. We just need some removal. And we do have Eat to Extinction with the Exile. Is great. So yeah, we'll try it. So drop the Tomb, of course. Wow, Healer's Hawk on turn 1, and that's kind of a dream play for us. Oh, I misclicked. Oops. I meant to say, I was expecting to say take action. Well, that's alright. So this Healer's Hawk should be dead, and we should have a 3-2 on board. We still have reach though, so that's fine. That's fine. Of course, they could just have a removal spell of their own to kill it, and passive. Okay. Loaming Shaman. Just play the Tomb and hold apart this act. If they just tap out for Lurrus, we can probably just Heartless Act the Hawk and then Eat to Extinction the Lurrus. That'll be pretty tilting for them. We'll see what they do. Pridemate. Footlighting. Yep, so let's go ahead and take out the Hawk, which we should have done earlier. Should have been able to use that Heartless Act to kill the Pridemate. But I'm dumb, and I misclicked, so here we are. Graveyard. I'm not really close to casting that. Rather just find some more removal. They still have 4 cards in hand. So we'll just drop the Lich next turn. So just the 3 cards in our graveyard right now. And we could play Loaming Shaman if we need to, just to get another creature down to block. Love some removal for Lurrus right now. They can only play one thing. Just take it. It's only 2 damage. Ooh, Cavalier is fantastic. So yeah, Harpooner is pretty easy target for sacrifice. Get rid of Lurrus. Force the concession from them last time. Let's go and attack in for 4. See if they're going to do with our Cavalier. If not, it's pretty backbreaking for them. Cauldron, that's pretty obnoxious. No oven though. Another pacifism, sure. Kroxa, so there goes Loaming Shaman. So the Lich will always give us some fantastic card selection. Let's see, there's still a little ways from Kroxing. That exile 5, then we have 3 other cards. I think we just need more creatures on board here. Plenty of lands. Let's go and get the Vulture down, draw, gain some life back. And if we attack, they can block with the cat and then just fuels up their escape. Which isn't great. But we do need to start putting some pressure on them at some point. At least they don't have the oven. So I'll just do that. We're still a couple cards away. Could flash in Lutri just to take out the Scorpion. So I have 4 cards right now. Try mate. Okay, on the way to gain life except for the Scorpion dying. No reason to block. We'll just save Lutri in case we find a removal spell. Myth of Brokos gets back permanence. Fiend Artisan, we can sacrifice our Cavalier to find something. I guess we'll do that. And just having a 6/6 on board is pretty sweet. The safe play is probably just attacking in the air. Well, they're missing double red for Kroxa. I have 2 black sources. So even though they're running a pretty janky version of Lurrus, it's still pretty powerful. Well, Embodiment we'd pretty good here. Embodiment of Agonies, get a nice powerful flyer. Still in our library somewhere. Of course, Grafdiggers would shut down their Kroxa. Another Scorpion, sure. Attack for 2. Grow their Pride Mate or fuel their... There we go. Oh, man. Tyrant, Scorn, Binding. I mean, Binding fuels up Kroxa pretty much immediately, but they're still missing red. But if they miss red, we can exile it and don't have to worry about that. Murderous Rider, we can flash in to kill 2 things, but then that's going to cost us 4 life. Tyrant, Scorn, we don't have enough blue to do that, so I think we just have to do this and hope for the best. Alright, so let's attack in with our flyer. Let's go ahead and, what do we want? Embodiment? Autopay. Sack the Cavalier. Let's fill up their graveyard, unfortunately. What do we got? Get the Harpooner back. Just get a creature. And Embodiment. Start swinging in through the air for 10. Seems pretty good. Alright, so we have the Murderous Rider if they find a Healer's Hawk here. They did find a red source, that's pretty brutal, but they did not. Okay, so we can attack in for 12 in the air. And if we draw anything that fuels up our graveyard, then that'd be fantastic as well. And we can block the Footlight Fiend, it deals 1 damage, which doesn't really... Yeah, I think we'll take out the Footlight Fiend. Deal 1 damage to me, put me down to 7, that's fine. Pass the turn. Okay, so now we can exile their graveyard. Don't have to worry about Kroxa at all. Or we can Obnyx Cruelty. Yes, we do have the mana for that. Do we win the game? Let's see. And then of course we can get back to Lochmere Serpent anytime. Well, let's take out these Scorpions, I think. Flash in, copy. Okay, so both Scorpions are off the board, going to exile so that they don't get the trigger. Let's see, so we can attack in all. Are they dead? So they can block, what, 8? So they're taking 13, yeah. And they are just dead here. Sweet. Yeah, these Lutri decks are pretty sweet. You know, Singleton. Obviously, the Izzet versions are a lot simpler because it's just a lot of you know, blue bounce cards, red direct damage. Pretty easy to manage. Undergrowth is fun because it just requires a lot more thinking. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this deck. It's not something I've seen anybody else do before. I had a ton of fun playing it. There's lots of good Undergrowth cards you can play around with to tweak it to your exact liking. I've obviously done some playtesting and tuned this list to where it's at right now. I feel pretty good with where it's at. So yeah, if there's anything else you think I should be running or that you would do differently, let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.